Yo, what's going on, guys? KrispyFlakes here. Welcome to that Crispy Creamy podcast. Still not the title of the podcast. Someday we will actually think of one, man. But yes, we obviously just had a big time trade go down, and I did an initial reaction to it over on my second channel, Extra Crispy. But those videos are always, especially like on like the breaking news type of stuff, it's like more so like shocked and just like off the top of my head type of thoughts and stuff, very quick and everything like that. I usually don't get a chance to actually like dissect and analyze. It's not a word. Analyze. There we go. That's what we're talking about, man. The actual trade. So we are gonna do that. I was not. I was sworn totally against doing a second channel on my main channel today, because if you guys saw, which actually nobody did, was I did a video of rebuilding the Seattle Supersonics in NBA 2K7. And I had a lot of fun doing that video earlier today. And like literally the second I uploaded it, before that I was like, if I upload this now, a trade's going to happen. So I uploaded it. Just, I don't know why, man. I got anxious. And 10 minutes later, the trade went down. So that has been hidden in the abyss. Nobody's seen it, but it's okay, man. We got the podcast, right? And it's gonna be a lot of fun, right, man? So, TLDR, James Harden, Brooklyn Nets. Maybe you're new here. Maybe you haven't seen the news, which would be crazy, man. What if this podcast right here is somebody's very first exposure to basketball? Like they were looking up like James Martin, some professional chef, and on accidentally typed in Harden, and now they're at this podcast, right, man? I mean, they saw the word crispy, so there's cooking associated with that word, right? But basically, for this podcast here, man, we are going to break down every single team. I'm going to tell you guys what I think about all these players on all these teams, and how things are going to work out, and all of that good stuff. Then at the end, over on my Twitter account at KrispyFlakes2K, I did ask people to ask me questions about this trade in particular, and really all the teams and stuff. And I'm going to answer a few of those, assuming that we'll actually, get to some of those. But we should eventually, man. Okay. So the first one we're going to talk about is the big one out here, man. James Harden to the Brooklyn Nets. How exactly does Crispy Flakes think that's going to work out? Well, I have no idea, man. I'm actually, okay, like, part of me it's hard to feel bad for a team that has Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden. But I feel bad for the Nets fan base because I know how excited they are. And when you get really excited and those highs are highs, like, if things work out, perfect. But if they don't work out, that drop to rock bottom is going to hit you extra hard, man. Like that bedrock, it's not going to be feeling very good. And I fear so much for a team that in the past, 10 years or whatever, traded away every single draft pick, went through this crazy rebuild, got themselves an all-star in D'Lo, made it to the playoffs with that team, had some decent draft picks despite not really having any draft picks, being able to like make it like a Karis LeVert and like a Jarrett Allen and stuff like that. Despite essentially trading, having all the pick swaps with Boston Celtics, they still made decent over the years. But to give up all that now for this chance at this dynamic trio that also is extremely dysfunctional scares the hell out of me, man. Because you all gotta remember, like, those draft picks that they originally traded turned into guys like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, I believe Kyle Kuzma, Draymond Green, guys along those lines, right? Which it kind of stings. But, in the end of the day, you look at all that, and the Brooklyn Nets have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. So, I mean, hey, I guess if this shows anything, it's that everything can work out in the end, even if that was never the intended plan. So yeah, man, how do I think this team's gonna work? Well, I think first and foremost, I'm very pessimistic about it, and I hate to do that, but I'm pessimistic in the sense that I need, for me, it goes beyond what's on paper. It goes beyond what I know each of these guys can do individually. To me, it's gonna come down to chemistry and attitude. And I'm not quite so sure, man, because like when you want to look at like dramatic guys in the NBA, I mean, yes, the Nets now have a top 2 small forward. They have a top 5 point guard, and they have the best shooting guard of this era. I ain't talking about Kobe, man. Kobe was a different era. So on paper, that's great, but drama-wise, each of these 3, you would probably say collectively over the years, are all top 5 drama queens in the NBA. And I feel like Kevin Durant's going to be fine. Like, Kevin Durant's been out of basketball for a year or whatever with the torn ACL or Achilles, whatever it was. So he's ready to go. Kyrie Irving always seems, going back to his Celtic days, to have a mix of he's either really injured or he's in a bad place mentally. And I don't really want to say mentally because, I'm not saying like how Kyrie thinks is bad, but it's just like probably something you don't want your superstar NBA point guard to act like. You want you want your player to show up, lead by example, and play basketball, right, man? So I mean, maybe Kyrie Irving sees James Harden's on the team now, and maybe he's really excited to play together. But even I look beyond that, man. Like, I think of all the great players that James Harden has played with in the backcourt, and they've all ended badly. And out of the three of those, like, yes, CP3 and Russell Westbrook both have egos in their own extent, in their own different ways, right? But I feel like Kyrie, out of the three of them, has the one that has the biggest potential to really go bad. And then James Harden also has a big ego, obviously. I mean, look at this whole situation with the Houston Rockets, man. So if these guys can work things out, if these guys can play basketball, if these guys, man, I even try to think about like option wise though, because typically in a basketball team you have like that first, second, or third option. And I was nervous about it when Kevin Durant went to the Warriors. But the thing that made it work with the Warriors is just how selfish, right? Not selfish, selfless. Curry and Klay Thompson are as superstar, all-star players, whatever you want to say. And you don't get that same ego, that same attitude with this new team. So I really can't even use Kevin Durant's time with the Golden State Warriors as a benefit thing because like that team was kind of catered towards Kevin Durant's dramatic side. And then, Kyrie, I mean, Kyrie wants to be like a number one guy, right? He wants to be a number one guy. I mean, he left the Cleveland Cavaliers because, played LeBron James, Kevin Love, a big three that, the spotlight was on LeBron. Kevin Love said how difficult it was being talented but being a third option. So out of the three, Kyrie, Harden, and Durant, you would think Kyrie would by default be that third option. Kevin Durant's not going to be willing to take on that third option role. James Harden sure in the hell won't. So how's that going to affect him going from, I mean, he was Robin, wanting to be Batman, and now he's gotten that Batman spot, looked more like a Joker, and now he's kind of looking like Superboy or something like that, man. Like, he has to be like that third hero. And it's just, I mean, like, if I'm being 100% honest with the two, man, I would have honestly preferred just like Kyrie for Harden straight up in a trade. Because just like, Harden and Durant, I feel like would have worked out. I feel like, because I don't feel like Harden really respected anybody on the Houston Rockets, which is kind of stupid because like nobody really did anything to lose his respect from a player standpoint. Front office could be different. But I feel like Durant and Harden would work out by themselves. But you add Kyrie in the mix, and that's where I get a little nervous with things, and I have no idea how this is all going to end. It could end with them winning 3 straight championships. They have that much talent. I will say, like, defensively, not a lot of it. I mean, they still have DeAndre Jordan, but he's kind of a shell of his former self, especially defensively. They got Bruce Brown, who I'm a big fan of, man, but he'll probably get some PT now. Landry Shamet is like a good scoring guy out there. Losing Jarrett Allen, Karis LeVert. And I guess, man, I know I personally did not even think about this. Going into next season, man, like, does that mean Dinwiddie's gone when he's back from his ACL, or does he just become a 6-man again? Which is fine, because Dinwiddie can play with either Kyrie or James Harden in the backcourt. So I didn't really think about that. But I still think this team's going to go out, maybe make a few extra moves out there. They don't got any draft picks to trade, unfortunately. So maybe there's some free agent signings out there to kind of, help beef up the bench a little bit. And, man, so be it. So, yeah, that is the Nets. I think they have potential to win multiple championships. But I also think this has a lot of potential to blow up in their face. It was definitely a high-risk, high-reward move. And that's weird to say when you get a guy like James Harden back for draft picks and Karis LeVert. But all right, let's move on to, I guess, the Houston Rockets, the other side of the trade. So a lot of things have happened at this point, and the Houston Rockets end up getting Victor Oladipo, because Karis LeVert was originally traded to the Rockets, and then Oladipo, they swapped players with the Pacers. So they got Depot, Dante Exum, Rodion Kurocs, 3 Brooklyn first-round picks, 2022, 2024, 2026, Milwaukee first, and 2022 unprotected, and 4 Brooklyn first round swaps, which I kind of know how swaps work, and I also kind of don't. Essentially, though, I guess what is it? They get the 3 first round picks, and then the swaps are like on the off years because of the Stepien rule, which means you can't like trade back to back picks. Because essentially, they would have got 7 picks if that rule did not exist. But those pick swaps is like okay, like they could like choose like the better of the 2 picks. I believe is how that kind of works, which I don't think is going to be much because, well, I mean, 2025, 2027 season, that could actually work out. That's 4 to 6 years down the road now. So, yeah, I could see those picks becoming extremely valuable later on. So, I will say, given all the circumstances, I think the Rockets came out pretty good. I mean, about a year ago, the trade value would have been so much better. But the thing about that is that just Harden and everything has been going on, going to the clubs and stuff like that, not going along with management. Like a lot of teams don't want to take that on just because even like a great asset, if it has so much risk to it, just to like really bring down everybody else, so you really want them. I mean, if you work as like a used car, or I don't want to say used car, just a car lot as a salesman. And like your team is great, but you have an opportunity to bring in this really great salesman. But if you by bringing that salesman, he's going to put down everybody else around him. Is it really worth it? On paper it might be, but just the morale of the company could really go bad too. But I think the Rockets did a great job here, man. All things considered, yes, they did not end up getting Ben Simmons. That sucks. But even like Simmons with like John Wall and Christian Wood, it would have been interesting. But I still think you look at the Rockets and they're going to see for the first time since what? How long has Harden been here for? Let me click real quick here. I got his stats and stuff pulled up for. He's been here since oh my God, since the 2012 season, man. So nearly a decade ago, 8 years ago. For the first time, this team is going to see team basketball, and I think it's gonna be a beautiful thing, man. Like I look at the team, they gotta stay healthy. I mean, if they don't stay healthy, then it's like, that sucks. You still got damn 7 picks or whatever. 4 actual picks and 3 actual picks and then swaps. But if this team stays healthy, it's gonna be fun. John Wall's been looking good. Victor Oladipo's back, healthy, looks good. He's gonna be refueled, rejuvenated on to be on a new squad. Eric Gordon is like a 3-point shooter. Christian Wood at the 4. Boogie at the 5. I mean, that's a team that you say like 4 years ago is damn competing for a championship. Now, so it's like, can they compete to stay healthy? And if they do, if those guys can return to that form, that all-star form, they're going to be freaking amazing, man. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I cannot guarantee it's going to be a championship, but James Harden's never been a guaranteed championship either. I think it's a team that can come out of nowhere and really sneak up on you, and is a team you probably don't want to see in the first round of the playoffs, is what I'm kind of saying with the Houston Rockets. So I'm happy for them in that sense, man. Dante Exum, Eurodians, I mean, those are like names, but Oladipo and the picks were obviously the big things right here, man. And early on, I don't expect those picks to be much of anything, but just to give the Rockets a little bit more security in this trade going down. I mean, let's say Harden, Durant, and Kyrie don't work out. Kyrie ends up retiring. Then all of a sudden you're down to Harden and Durant. Durant doesn't get along with Harden, so he doesn't sign another contract. Harden's like, I don't want to be the only guy to Brooklyn, so he requests another trade or whatever it may be, man. So many different things that can go wrong. Obviously, it's a different situation, different circumstance from the Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Jason Terry type of stuff that went on that cost all the draft picks. But hypothetically, if it does not work out, and let's say by 2022 or 2023, this is absolutely blown up. I mean, we saw that with that Celtics team, who they turned those draft picks into because those picks ended up being better than what they probably initially thought would ever even happen based off the trade. So, I mean, if some of these picks turn out to be top 10 picks or whatever, damn, even better, right, man? Even better. So, I think it's a big-time win for the Houston Rockets. Next up, we have the Indiana Pacers, Caris LeVert, and a second rounder. And I think this one right here, I don't know how Pacer fans really feel about it. I mean, Caris LeVert obviously is younger. As far as injury proneness, I mean, him and Victor are kind of like in the same mindset right there. We have seen Caris LeVert score 50 points in an NBA game. We've seen Caris LeVert be a pretty damn good six-man this season, at least to start the season. Not going to lie, I've not paid too much attention as of late. But LeVert, I think this is such a blissful opportunity for him to really erupt in the NBA as a top scorer. I really think he can do that too. I've been watching this kid since his Michigan days, freshman year, in college and stuff like that, man. And this kid, the thing about him is every single season, given the opportunity, he becomes a beast. Like, his first year at Michigan, he was coming off the bench playing limited minutes. There was Trey Burke, Tim Hardaway Jr., guys like that on the squad, so there was not a lot of opportunity. Then next season, there's like Nick Sauskas, and I believe it was the third season. that he really erupted, as a college player on Michigan and stuff, right, man? Just because like the opportunity was there, and we know he's a bucket as long as he can stay healthy, right? So I think once again the Pacers are going to keep that identity as a team that just has a really good solid five all the time. Like they just have really good players on their team, and people are not going to give them enough credit because just who's on there. They're gonna be like, oh, like Sabonis, like he's fine, but it's like no. It turns out Sabonis is like a top 20 player in the NBA, but he just doesn't have like that sexy style of play to him. And I think Karis LeVert fits in with that mentality extremely well. Where this is just like people look now like, wow, Karis LeVert's averaging 25 a game. Didn't see that one coming until it happens, right? And then, they'll be a good team in the Eastern Conference. That doesn't change. Getting a second round pick too. I mean, who knows? Maybe that ends up being something special. So I think for the Pacers, it's some good stuff, man. Losing Oladipo sucks, but there was always this especially like the past season, like there was like this air that he just didn't really want to be on the Pacers anymore. Not sure how true that was, but you get a younger player who has potential to be a good scorer. I know Oladipo was a big part of that team, especially like 2 years ago when he made the All-Star team. But I think it's going to be a good switch for both guys. Being Karis and Victor, I think we're going to see Victor really mesh well with the veterans of the Houston Rockets, and we're going to see Karis LeVert given this new opportunity on the Indiana Pacers really flourish in it, man. So then you look at the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers essentially in this, if I read it correctly, gave up a first-round pick, which was the Milwaukee Bucks pick, unprotected in 2022, which they have Giannis, so it's not going to be a great pick because that's all going to be a good team whenever they have Giannis. So, but they essentially, let's say, gave up a late first-round pick in exchange for Jarrett Allen and Taurean Prince. With this, I mean, I like Jarrett Allen. I feel like what Jarrett Allen does, I don't know what his contract is exactly, but I think he's worth anywhere from $10 to $15 million, which is a hell of a lot cheaper than Andre Drummond's probably going to be asking for. Not as good as Andre Drummond, but with the whole Sexton thing going on in the Cleveland Cavaliers with, Colin and Darius, they don't really need an Andre Drummond type of center. Like Drummond, in my opinion, kind of slows things down. He's always been like a very stat-oriented center that slows down the offense, has bad body language and stuff. With Jarrett, you're going to get a guy that's going to, block some shots, catch some oops, be similar to like a guy like Mitchell Robinson on the New York Knicks, or if you want to go more of a veteran, this on a larger role, like a Rudy Gobert, like that type of impact, right? Which I think that's all you really need in the NBA for the center position, especially when you have two dynamic guards. Look at the Warriors, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, when they had Andrew Bogut, JaVale McGee, Kevon Looney, they always had good success. Now, obviously, Darius and Colin is not that because those are the two greatest shooters of all time, essentially, right, man? But I think it's enough. And I think this is going to allow them to just get a good serviceable center at a good pay price. Let Andre Drummond's $32 million self walk away in free agency. Hopefully get something back for Kevin Love. I would even go as far as like getting like some expiring contracts for Kevin Love. If they can pull that off this season, that'd be amazing. And then all of a sudden you have so much freed up in cap space to build around that trio of Colin, Darius, Jarrett. Let's obviously add Isaac Okoro into that list. And they're in a really good situation, man. So very happy for them too. Like I feel like this trade overall, there was not a lot of L's with them, man. It was pretty much like a win-win-win-win trade, with the biggest losers being the Rockets in the sense that, damn, if Harden would just handle things a little bit better, then the Rockets probably could have got like an all-star caliber player back. Not saying Oladipo's not all-star caliber because he was once an all-star, but something different. But I feel like getting all these draft picks is nice. So I think at this point we're waiting as far as like trade guys go. I mean, I've been waiting for the past 6 years for Kevin Love to get traded to the Portland Trail Blazers. Bradley Beal, I think, probably gets dealt eventually, man. But Harden is finally on a different team. So at this point, I would like to go and answer some of the questions over here on Twitter, where I did ask people, to ask about this trade and stuff like that. So some of it might be stuff that we've actually kind of touched on, so I'm going to be very quick with some of those. So we got Austin Forge saying, how much bigger role does Bruce Brown get now on the team? I assume quite a bit, given he is one of their best defenders. Yeah, Bruce Brown played a little point guard for the Pistons last year. He is going to be somebody that, can play with either Harden or Kyrie Irving, which is going to be a great thing. But he's probably going to see an uptick in the role. Who knows? Maybe that was the reason they didn't mind giving up some of these bench guys, because they're like, Bruce Brown can, do some things out there. I've always called Bruce Brown the Draymond Green of shooting guards. And by that, I mean going back to last year, just because he's a grit and grind guy that's not going to put up the sexiest numbers, but he's going to do a little bit of everything, do the glue things out there that you need to win a championship. So I think he sees a bit of a role now, man. So we got Smosey Flows. Who do you think has the best chance to beat the Nets themselves? I think that's the best way to put it. Themselves, man. Okay. Let's move on to some more of these. We got Emmanuel saying, how many championships do you see in the Nets' future? I think that this, like I said, okay, worst case scenario is that none of these guys get along and it's just over with. But let's say worst case scenario is that these three guys play together and things are fine. And just like the bare minimum fine. Like these guys all play together and that's it. I think then you have to say that's good for at least one championship. It also has potential for them to win 2 or 3. Love LeBron, love the Lakers and stuff like that, man. Like they got a great franchise. A lot of, Celtics, great team. But I think I said this earlier, man. They literally have a top 5 point guard, the best shooting guard of this era, top 2 small forward of this era, with only one guy ahead of him being LeBron James. So, yeah, man. Matt Flynn says, do you think the Cavs acquiring Jarrett Allen paved the way for Kevin Love to be traded? Not really. I would say more so Drummond at the trade deadline. Like maybe there's a team out there like the Celtics that want to get better, like a better big guy just for the short term to make a run, in the playoffs and stuff like that. I say that has a lot larger chance of happening because you don't really want to see Jarrett Allen in the backcourt with Andre Drummond. He's definitely a center, not a power forward. So, yeah, man. We got Kia saying, do you see John Wall leading the Rockets team to the 8th seed? If they all stay healthy, yes. They have the veteran leadership to do so. They have the talent to do so. It's all going to come down with health. We got Jacob saying, is Victor Oladipo resigning with the Rockets after this season? Too early to tell. We obviously got to see how they all play together. I mean, if he plays really well, the team does well, then sure, I could see it happening. But I could also see him going somewhere else too. All right. See, we got somebody asking about LeVert. We've kind of seen that already. How do they guard Giannis Antetokounmpo? I mean, nobody. This is from Black Danny Ainge. So how do they guard Giannis Antetokounmpo? I mean, nobody really does. But at the end of the day, you still have Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's a very underrated defender. He's a great defender. So I like that right there. Like, that's completely fine. I feel like that works. Harden's defense over the years has actually gotten a little better. I mean, this year he's not trying at all, but when he actually does try, like, Harden's been better at defense. So you still have a big body in DeAndre Jordan on the inside, so that's still got to be intimidating for somebody to drive it on. I don't know who their backup center is now, though. I know they got Nicholas Claxton. He's okay. Like, he's got pretty good potential. I actually think that Claxton could be like a Jarrett Allen type of player, so maybe he does a lot better, given a better role now, too. I think he's still on the team, right? KrispyFlakes Burner says, who lost the trade? I don't think anybody really lost. I just think the Rockets a year ago could have done better, but with that being said, they still did pretty good. David says, do I think the Cavs can take the 8th seed? I don't really think this trade moves the needle enough. I mean, they still could be the 8th seed. Like, I'm not saying that, but I'm not, like, solidified. Jarrett Allen makes them a solidified 8th seed over there. We got Cole JP says, do you see this as a problem for the NBA to have another super team in the league? Not really, man. To me, there's a lot, like, this is a super team on paper, but even with, like, LeBron, D. Wade, and Chris Bosh, like, we all knew that was going to work. Kevin Durant on the Warriors, we were like 97% sure that was going to work. I just think with the sense that we're not sure if this is going to work, just based off other factors. So it's a super team, but in a different way, man. It's a super team in a different way. We got Matt T says, do you think the Rockets flip Depot on an expiring deal for more picks? No, I don't think so. I think they'll probably be happy with some of these picks. I mean, obviously, if somebody offers up a really good trade that's hard to resist, then sure, you go with it. But I think the Rockets at the same time, they probably want to stay competitive. Obviously, they have like a new GM of the team now and everything, so he wants to be competitive. But yeah, I think they'll be okay. We got Jay says, how would you feel if Kyrie got traded sometime soon? I honestly think he would retire before getting traded. I don't think he's going to get traded. I mean, because, for him to get to the point of getting traded, I think it would just be a lost cause for him in the NBA. So, yeah, I don't think so. Who has the better center team, Detroit or Cleveland? This is by Ryan. I don't understand this with Detroit anymore. They signed a lot of centers, but a lot of them got traded later on. We have 3 centers. We have Jahlil Okafor, we have Isaiah Stewart, and Mason Plumlee. A 3-center rotation. That's it. That's not that many centers. I don't really get that anymore, but hey, here we are. We got Joey, who says, how do you see Christian Wood, the Rockets, in a couple years? Oh, this is actually really interesting, man, because Christian Wood, like, he left the Detroit Pistons for one because the Pistons didn't offer enough money, but also he said he wanted to win games. And I'm sure when he decided to go to the Rockets, their backcourt at the time was James Harden and Russell Westbrook, and he probably assumed those guys were going to get along. So I'm actually very curious how Christian Wood feels about things now, man. All things considered, it's like this is not the team that he signed up for. So I mean, if they stay competitive, we'll be happy. But I can see a guy like Christian Wood getting very salty very quickly. But at this point, he signed a 3-year, $41 million deal. He has to play through it. Like he's not the type to he's not gonna be the type to like request a trade. Not that he's not like the type, but he doesn't exactly have like that aspiration yet, if that makes sense. We got Matt saying, do the next thing, I'm going to win championship. Talked about that. There's going to be a lot of questions about that. Will Oladipo return to star play on the Houston Rockets? This is by Jokic MVP. I think there's the opportunity to do that. Gabriel says, how does this trade affect the Sixers? Well, it kind of does put them all into like the whole like all in on Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, which is fine. Like, I still like that duo a lot. I'm never one that's ever hated on that duo before. Yeah, they'll still be a really good team. I could see something. Well, not even so much this, because I was like, well, I mean, maybe there's potential for a Ben Simmons, Bradley Beal thing, but then again, we go back to Russell Westbrook playing with Ben Simmons and yuck, but I mean, Bradley Beal would be great on the 76ers. Do I think the defense is awful now by Emmanuel? Not as bad as people think, I guess. So I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think. I think at this point, oh, here we go. Rank the teams involved in the Harden trade. So I guess we will rank this based off of who won. I think the team that won the most is still the Nets. I think followed by the Rockets because they got some great picks. The Pacers getting Karis LeVert is cool. And then I guess the Cavaliers, but that's only because they have so many centers as is, and they gave up a first-round pick to get Jarrett Allen. So, yeah, I feel like that's fair. But I think it's pretty equal on all grounds. Are the Rockets playoff contenders by David Sosa? Yeah. I think all things considered, they could still fight for the 6th seed. I don't see any reason why that could not happen if they stay healthy. That's always been the big part of it, man. We got 2K God says Big Mac or quarter pounder. I've always been a quarter pounder guy. So, yeah, more of a Q&A for you right there, man. Yeah, we don't just talk about basketball over here. Okay. Yeah, I think at that point, that's pretty much sums all the questions. All the ones I'm looking at right here, all pretty much the same, man. So, yeah, we got what? That's about 27 minutes for the podcast. Hopefully you guys all enjoy this. Hopefully you guys are liking the new setup, by the way. It's not Taco Bell, unfortunately. But, yeah, hope you guys all enjoyed. If you got to this point in the video, if you've not seen my last video, my Seattle Supersonics one, would greatly appreciate it if you checked that out. But at this point, man, thank you all so much for watching, and peace out, my friends.